Okay, so today we're going to be talking about my favorite standalones. Every year in December, I update my favorite authors, favorite series, and favorite standalones. They always change a little bit because I always read some new favorites, which I love, and I hope that every year I get to redo these videos, continue to find new favorites. We already did favorite authors and favorite series, and today we're going to do favorite standalones. Okay, just like in the other videos, I'm just going to go ahead and start from the top and work my way down. We're going to do the top 6 again because apparently I can't choose top 5s anymore. And my top #1 favorite book of all time is still Peter Pan. I'm currently very slowly doing a reread of Peter Pan, so you will get a dedicated review for it soon, finally. This is actually the first classic that I read when I decided, hey, I haven't read very many classics. Maybe I should try them out, and fell in love with classics. That probably has something to do with it, but also just the book itself means so much to me. I love the whimsy of the world as well as the darkness of the world, the hidden darkness in this story. I love Peter Pan for how silly and childlike he is, but also how deep his character is. He's a little brat and he's hurting. Ugh. And technically, I guess you could call this not a standalone because there is Peter Pan in Kensington Gardens, which I have read, but it was written as a standalone, so should it count? No. It's here. And I will be talking about Peter Pan in Kensington Garden when I do review this book, do the deep dive of why it means so much to me, because it did add to the story despite me not liking it. Anyway, I love their journey that they go on. I love the adventure that they get into. I love the world. I love the way he wrote it, but more than anything, I love the ending. It's something that I think was very intentional, the way he wrote it, and it was supposed to be pulled on. Oh, it's hard to talk about spoiler free. It's something that I think he was very intentional with the way he ended it, and it's an ending that has spoken to me a lot. So we'll talk about it soon, I promise. I know I've been saying that all year, but I'm actually rereading it now, so we'll talk about it soon. Next on my list, you may be surprised to hear, is going to be The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. I'm gonna do a reread of this really soon too. I'm gonna reread it with my son. I read it with my son the first time. So this is a book that is formatted for children, but really written for everybody. So it has these very simple yet beautiful illustrations and then just a few words per page. And I don't even know what genre to call this. Oh gosh, I love this story so much. But what it does is it takes these really deep and complex emotions and writes about them very, very simply, but in a way that is so profound. And there's so many deep and complex emotions that they kind of break down and help you to process. And I love this. It's a story that I was going to just read it quickly to my son, and he did sit through the whole story. So, you know, it works for kids. And I was crying through it. And my son's just like, having a nice book. But it's a book that I wish I had read growing up because it does such a great job of simplifying without diminishing things that we as humans need to process and need to sort through in our minds. And it was impactful for me as an adult too, so it's definitely a story that I'll be rereading to my children as they grow up, and that I will be rereading to myself anytime I need a reminder of some really fantastic stuff. I really recommend this book. After I read it, I was saying, and I still think this, there's so few books that I actually tell people you need to read this, because it's like, let me just share my love for certain books and you can decide how you feel about them. But with this book, I'm like, you need to read this. You need to read it. I think it's such a good book. Okay, so next book on the list is And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer. I decided to restrict myself to pick one book per author, because there's a lot of Bachman books that could fall into my favorites category, so I chose this one because I still think it's my favorite. Things My Son Needs to Know About the World, which is his only nonfiction, could also potentially be a favorite, but I'm going to stick with this one. This is the first Bachman book that I ever read. This is about a grandpa, his son, and his grandson. It follows all of their perspectives, and the grandpa is losing himself within his dementia. This is a personal subject to me, and I just love the way Bachman writes because he does such a great job of getting down to the core of humanity. And I guess he talks about subjects that are really personal to him, and it feels that way when I read his books. I feel like I've just related to a person about something that is meaningful and personal to both of us. It doesn't feel like I'm reading a story. It feels like I've had a discussion with someone who gets me. And I love that his books do that, and this is a book that's very personal to me, so I felt seen. I felt like my family was seen by this little short story, and I love it for that. Next on the list is going to be The Count of Monte Cristo. So this one's actually really tough to describe spoiler free because most of the main events of the book don't start until you're a good chunk into it. This is about a man who's living a good life until he gets betrayed by a friend. And then things change. And it's such an interesting story narratively because you start off knowing more than our main character. We see the betrayal happen and he doesn't. And then we spend a good chunk of time with him in prison. And after that section, the narrative flips to where now he knows a lot more than us, and we're just along for the ride. And it is such a great ride. If you're okay with me saying a little bit about the story itself, which it's a classic, so you probably already know some things, it is a revenge story, and he's out to get back at the people that have harmed him. And it's, oh my gosh, it's such a complex and brilliant story. As far as just storytelling, just along for the ride, it's a great ride. It's such a complex and smart story, and going along with everything that's happening is such a fun it's such a fun ride. I think it's published as an adventure novel, and it's such a fun adventure. But also there's such great discussions had in this book, and such great reflections that happen with these characters. I love this story so much. Someday I'll do a reread and we'll do a dedicated review. It's a fantastic story for the sake of just a fun ride and for the sake of some really complex things discussed that are really good. Really, really good. Okay, now we're down to Jane Austen. This is my Jane Austen set, The Woman on the Spines. And man, my one book per author rule, again, stumped me for a minute because I didn't know which one to choose, because I think I love almost all of Austen's novels nearly the same. I just think that she's a brilliant writer. I love her storytelling abilities. I love her romances. I love her character studies. I love her societal studies, and I love her humor. I mean, oh gosh, Jane Austen, I love this author. And I wasn't sure which book to choose, and I went back and forth between several of them. But if I'm honest, I'm probably pretty generic that Pride and Prejudice is still my favorite. Which is, I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. I really don't know if that's true or not. But it's the one I picked today. I don't know if it's true. I love this story. I love all of her stories, but I guess I just kind of wrapped it up. I think that she's a really brilliant writer. I think that her character work and her character dissections are really, really smart. Her romances are always fun, and I always root for them, and I'm not a romance reader, but she wins me over to every one of her romances. Also, I just think the way she depicts societal expectations is not only brilliant and critical, but also so brave. The stuff that she writes about, the kind of scandals she puts into her books, and the kind of ways that she reflects on what society thinks about women and about families, and just like the ridiculous expectations for the way people functions and the way people interact with each other, and the kind of dialogue that's appropriate and stuff like that. Like her reflections on society and her critical reflections on society, I think, are so brave that she decided to tackle in her books. And I just enjoy these discussions so much, and I enjoy the subtle ways that her characters, not just Elizabeth, all of her characters are so strong and brave and going against certain expectations. I don't know. I just love it. I just talked about all her books instead of Pride and Prejudice specifically. I cheated. I don't really feel bad about it. Last book on this list is going to be Rebecca. I have a feeling this is going to be beat out as I continue to explore du Maurier's work, because Rebecca, I think, is my favorite book that I've read by her, but then I read My Cousin Rachel and I think it's better written. I just like the story more in this one. So I think as I explore more of her work and I read some of her later work, because this is one of her earlier books, I think I'm going to fall in love with a lot more of what she writes. But anyway, you probably know what a Rebecca is like, because the movie was recently released and it was pretty good, but they really botched the ending. So one thing that du Maurier does really well is she takes these characters, these twisted characters, and she... Oh no, I'm talking about an author again instead of a book. Okay, I'll talk about the book this time. Rebecca is about a girl who's in a tough situation. She meets a man who's in also a tough situation, but he's well off, he has money. And the two kind of collide. They're two broken people that are trying to escape their problems, and they fall into this whirlwind kind of obsession to solve their problems. And it doesn't work out so well, because he has his own secrets. He had a late wife who, when she gets there, she finds that his whole manor is obsessed with this woman named Rebecca. And before she passed away, all of these people were really zeroed in on her, to the point that our main character, who is never named in the book, which I think is brilliant, our main character falls into the obsession too, and is, oh gosh, it's just so good. Anyway, it's, a lot of people call it a mystery. Don't go into it thinking of a mystery. Think of it as a domestic thriller. And there is an unraveling of whodunit, but not in a mystery type way. Not in a way that you would expect from a mystery novel. But also, I just love her vague endings. I love that she gives us all the information so that we can conclude what happened, but different people can conclude different things. And there's just always, I love the way she writes. I love the way she writes her characters. I love the way she writes her creepy, unsettling tones and environments and settings. And I love the way she structures her stories. You should read her books. Okay, so those are 6 standalones that I adore. Probably my top 6 this year. I didn't read them all this year, but as of 2020, this is my favorite list. Next year, maybe I'll have some changes to it. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'd love to hear you chat with me more about these books, as well as I'd love to hear your top 6 list. I post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. I post videos every Tuesday through Saturday. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.